Greetings, I'm Mayor Melvin Carter, and I'm proud to serve St. Paul, the greatest city in the country and the place my family has called home for 5 generations. Our city is proud to commemorate Juneteenth each year on June 19th as the oldest known celebration of the end of African captivity in the United States. A bit of Juneteenth history. The Emancipation Proclamation issued by President Abraham Lincoln on September 22, 1862, announced that on the first day of January 1863, all persons held as slaves with any state in rebellion against the United States shall be then, thenceforward, and forever free. Despite this proclamation, it would take the Civil War and passage of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution to end the brutal institution of American slavery. After the Civil War ended in April 1865, most captives in Texas were still unaware of their freedom. That is, until Union troops arrived in Galveston, Texas. But it wasn't until June 19th, 1865, almost 2.5 years after the date President Lincoln declared emancipation, that slaves in Texas learned of their freedom. On this day, Major General Gordon Granger, commanding officer from the District of Texas, read an order which stated that the people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. With this notice, the Reconstruction era in Texas began. Freed African Americans observed Emancipation Day, as the holiday was first known, as early as 1866 in Galveston, Texas. Despite enduring unimaginable pain and trauma, the newly freed people of Texas found community and celebrated progress. And that's what we'll do too. Despite the hardships, despite our struggle for fairness and equity, we celebrate Juneteenth each year to rejoice, join together to heal, learn, and to teach. The story of emancipation is important to our history because even today, we are still dealing with long-term effects of decades of slavery and discrimination against African Americans and all people of color. Just last month, on the 2nd anniversary of his death, we commemorated George Floyd Remembrance Day in our city and reflected on the work we still need to do to dismantle the systemic racism that took his life and the lives of Daunte Wright, Amir Locke, Philando Castile, and far too many others. In St. Paul, we're driving forward an unapologetic equity agenda that makes targeted investments in our underserved and overlooked communities because that is where so much of our unrealized potential lies. By tapping into our differences, lifting up our neighbors, and inviting everyone into conversations about the future of our community, we can truly build a city that works for all of us. Our diversity really is our strength. I'm proud to be the mayor of a city where all our residents appreciate the importance of knowing the past, to understand the present, to build a brighter future together. I'm proud we are a city where all cultures are embraced. It is the embracement of our differences that is the key to an equitable and just world. Happy Juneteenth, St. Paul. May your observance of this day be meaningful. See you soon.
Them that's got shall have, them that's not shall lose. So the Bible says, and it still is news, 'cause your mama may have, and your papa may have, but God bless the child that's got his own, that's got his own.
Juneteenth makes me happy that slavery ended.
Juneteenth means black people are free from slavery. We can do whatever we want to do. We are happy to go to any school we want to. We can have any kind of friends we want.
Juneteenth means freedom. I can have friends that are brown and black, that all people are free, and that people can't use others to their advantage. You help people as much as you can, and you have equal rights. Juneteenth is a celebration where people's rights are equal. All people are free from slavery, and that there's parties.
What Juneteenth means to me is we're free and freedom from slavery, and we can see nature, and we get together, and we see friends and family.
That's got his own.
Yeah.
Here is a strange and bitter crowd. Northern streets, they bear this same fruit. Caps still on his knees, more bloods on their blues, while our voices are screaming in this summer breeze, screaming he can't breathe. Oh, stop this, please. Now some mothers nurse and sing their lullabies. Oh, they get to rock their babies as one of us dies. The scent of the summer bloom so sweet and fresh, and yet they still fetish for our brown pounds of flesh. So go on and change.
Ta-coumba, it's so nice to be here in your studio.
Yeah,
Wonderful work all around me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, that's what keeps me going. You know, keeps me solid.
Appreciate that. I think one of the things that also grounds you and keeps you solid is your commitment to history. So I'm curious, what does Juneteenth mean to you?
Juneteenth means that I am not picking cotton right now because somebody finally told me after 3 years or 3 months. I mean, it was just Juneteenth, and it's a thing of really finalizing that we're free. There were people that did not know they were free after the Emancipation Proclamation of Emancipation. That's bizarre, but that's how this country has always worked. If you don't know, oh well, you got to still keep working for free,
Right.
You know. And I have a card that I did that has it's a photograph from the slaves that were in South Carolina,
Right.
and they're laying on the ground and posing and something. They say, well, they're not working. I'm like, they heard they were free. They went and put their Sunday go meeting clothes on, which might just incorporate a white shirt and a vest and a bowler hat, and the women had clean dresses on, and they posed for their freedom,
Right.
or poised and posed for their freedom. So Juneteenth is just a constant reminder. That's why I was happy that it became a holiday.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people don't know it's a holiday.
Right.
You know, but it just gave me a little bit more fuel.
Right.
And there's still a lot of fuel that needs to be, fed into this engine of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
It just, makes me proud that those are the shoulders and the backs and, the platform that was kind of a level playing field.
Oh yeah. Well, you talk so much about the ancestors and the importance of the ancestors in the space.
Yeah, my ancestors came from South Carolina. I think that's why, but even, no matter where we came from, if we look like this,
Mm-hmm.
there was a struggle.
Right.
But this was the American struggle, the African American struggle, that, allowing us to finally know and believe that, because a lot of people still didn't believe it,
Right.
Where do you go after, generations of slavery?
Mm-hmm.
But you could stand still,
Right.
and you could breathe the air,
Right.
and then you could feel the loss and the gain all at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, talking about this challenge, this dichotomy of sometimes the good and the bad coming together, there's an outstanding piece of your artwork, No Words, Can you tell us a little bit about the significance of no words, especially a couple years removed now since the tragic death of Mr. George Floyd?
Mr. Floyd sacrifice, and whatever reason all of that happened, brought light to a closed tunnel of, depression, suppression, racism, but it was right in front of our eyes. But we've been so used to being tricked and bamboozled,
Right.
So you see this hand here?
Mm-hmm.
They're not there.
Right.
That hand right there,
Right.
that I told you is there, it's not there.
Right.
And I'm like, that kind of thing doesn't stop. And did you realize after Mr. Floyd was murdered, another black man was murdered a few weeks later?
Right.
Another one a few days later. Another one, shot somewhere. Like it was like they were, before the protests got really bad, somebody turned a switch that told everybody, oh, now you can go do that. Instead of thinking it was bad.
Right.
Police and, white supremacists thought, is this the call?
Right.
So there's been something out there, this unsettled kind of feeling of we're taking over somebody's space. We're taking over somebody's space, or the space we took from the indigenous people that this whole country belonged to.
Right.
It's almost like people believing that we're going to do to them what they did to us.
Right.
And that's not the way that we were ever raised.
No.
Culturally, you
No.
know. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian, a Muslim, or whatever. Love is a thing. Family is a thing. So when I did that piece, I had PTSD. I had gotten beat down in 68, 69, 72. Right. I mean, literally nobody thought I was going to get back up who beat me down. But that was not going to happen.
Right.
Because I have a hard head.
They have one of those John Lewis heads. That's good, though.
Yeah, and so and I'm from Chicago and Evanston, Illinois.
Right.
And but I heard the stories of the South, and so somehow those were the ancestors I called on, not to save me, but almost to forgive them. I was like, I must be crazy, but it was like so they wouldn't do it again.
Right.
They say
that's that aspect of love, right?
Yeah. I mean, I learned it. You'd see it in Nelson Mandela. You see it in Rwanda. They had to have a forgiveness. I call it a forgiveness policy, where the two that had been fighting so long, that the defeating general said, "Hey, we need to stop, or neither one of us will exist." I have to tell people now we need to stop. Because if we keep this up, we'll be battling and another country will just come and take us over. No problem. And somebody laughed and said, Canada? And I'm like, don't you ever think it wouldn't happen.
Right.
Because when there's weakness and imbalance, someone has to come and bring order. But it's not going to be the white supremacists.
Right.
Because, they're going to keep battling us. And by the way, we'll be battling them.
Right.
But we're trying to do this in a way, some of us,
right.
In a peaceful kind of manner, or at least go get a green switch kind of manner. You need to punish yourself. You need to stop this and think about what you're doing. And it's happening just now in recent, with new shootings, new murders. In Buffalo. Right. I'm like, what, Buffalo?
Right.
But then you find out the person came from somewhere else. They couldn't do it in their own community.
Right.
That's interesting.
Right.
So No Words is this painting that I did right over in my studio.
Right.
When I was suffering from this PTSD, I didn't really label it that. I was just like, my brother said, don't go outside.
Right.
I'm like, I'll be okay. He said, I'm not worried about it. You're going to hurt somebody. I'm like, I'm not going to hurt anybody. He said, do you even remember what you went through? Well, actually, I don't. That situation, Mr. Floyd being murdered 7 feet away from where I do my metal enameling, my public art.
Wow.
I couldn't, it just, I stayed in here like if it was a cave. I turned off all the lights. All these kind of things just got me doing that painting. So this painting, I could describe the painting more than what the painting does maybe, because this is, I do these rhythm patterns of images and spirit writing in these clouds like thought bubbles. And all these things, all of a sudden the ancestors kept creating these images. And then this face created itself out of that. I had two little teeny eyes
Right.
that I wanted to make realistic.
Okay.
And when I woke up, they were two huge eyes and a black woman in the face. And first it was like a black child, and then more I painted.
Right.
And instead of me doing it in color,
Right.
because I'm colorblind, it was just easier to do in a black and white. Then I'm just quick-handed. And the next thing I knew, I'm on one side of my studio, turning around, seeing this person staring at me like, what just happened? Almost like when I would do things,
Right.
and I come home and my mother just stare at me, and I'd confess 10 things. And she said, I just want you to wash your hands and
Right.
set the table. But I'm like, which one did I get the one that she's thinking about? I know she's thinking about something, but she wouldn't say anything because it was more effective.
Right.
Everybody will interpret that face differently. It was kind of calmly eerie
Right.
and a force that is no words.
Right.
You know, I've never been able to put exact definition, and I don't want to.
Right.
That's why it's called no words. Don't be
right.
asking me. You know, but the person that purchased it wrote a statement underneath it, a donor statement that dedicated it to George Floyd. The people should go to the Walker and see it and feel it for themselves. I've actually gone and sat down or been in the corner and watched people look at it and talk about it, and I'm all cool about it. And the guy says, "Oh, that's Ta-coumba. He's the artist." I'm like, "Oh man!" I always say that I'm sort of in a Mobius strip of time, you know, and you pick up pieces as you go. So
Right.
people are talking to each other as they go. People take pictures of it. People have sent me pictures on Facebook,
Right.
you know, and I don't know who they are, but they would just say thank you. I'm like, wonder what they're thanking me about, but it doesn't matter as long as they said they felt something from it.
Right, right, right. Well, when you were telling your story earlier, I was kind of thinking of the parable that Dr. King used about the driver flashing their lights. And then his brother says, I need to flash my lights back at him. And Dr. King tells him, we can't reciprocate in that way. We have to treat the other person with love and respect. So I so much appreciate how your art and your words and your spirit have brought us together and convey that love to one another.
Well,
So thank you.
thank you. Appreciate it. Uncle Bo.
We're here at the Philando Castile Peace Garden, and I'm here with my great friend Seitu. This is a community effort. It was started by the community in response to the tragic death of my son, Philando Castile. So we're going to just walk you through some of the great pieces in here. I don't know a lot about them, but this is his expertise, and we all work collectively to come up with this great space, a space of reflection, a space of healing, a space to just go overall and, you know, figure out what's going on with yourself. So, you know, it's a beautiful place, and there's so much going on, and it has so much meaning. There's such a spiritual aspect to this space that it couldn't be done by one individual. It had to be a collective. You know, Seitu is friends with some of my family members, and everything, all the designs here has a spiritual aspect to it. Something that happened that was formulated into art. So we're gonna walk through here and give you guys just a quick view of what it is right now. And there are some minor things that have to be done. You know, we're late on spring, so we weren't able to get them done before now. But we just want you to join us for a few minutes and see what's going on at the Philando Peace Garden.
Yeah, thank you so much, Valerie. And as you said, this was a collaborative effort. There's no way that I can walk through here without giving a shout out to Formula, the architects that designed this.
Yes.
And 10 by 10, the landscape architects that we worked with on here.
Right.
But the real inspiration was your passion and your love.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's what drew us all into this.
Okay.
I mean, in addition, this is sacred ground.
Absolutely.
This is
I
sacred
agree.
ground. This is, and it was real important. We looked at other sites, but it was real important to do it right here, where unfortunately Philando was killed right here at this spot.
Yeah.
And so this is a way to honor him by creating this walk with all of these Adinkra symbols. These Adinkra symbols are from the Akan people, primarily in Ghana. And it's a language. It's a visual language.
Right,
you know, I walk right by this one here, which is real important.
Yeah.
There are several symbols for Sankofa.
Okay.
And Sankofa is a bird. And you can kind of see the bird there. And the bird...
Is it that black bird with the long beak?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a bird that looks back.
Yes.
And so this is a symbol that tells us that we need to accept our past and look back in our past before we can walk to the future. And so that's why it was real key to do this on this walkway here.
Correct.
To, as kind of an entry into this space here. And so we had talked about this as a place, not just a sacred space, but a space that would allow for reflection.
Yes.
As well. A place where you could sit and chill.
Yeah.
You know, but really sit and contemplate the future.
Correct.
But you know, at the same time, part of the passion that we all tapped into was the love that folks showed in placing artwork here.
Yes.
You know, I mean, that was without permission. You didn't ask for it, but like that was this treasure chest of love, offerings of love and sorrow.
Yeah,
you know,
I
that
tell
was
people
here.
all the time that it was the community started this garden. In reality, they're
Really,
the ones
exactly.
that came and started putting these pieces down. You know, symbolically honoring Philando.
Absolutely.
You know, so you're correct about all of that.
Yeah, so I mean, this is truly sacred space. And so we struggled for a while to gain permission to do this on this particular site.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we
did.
That's a whole story.
Yeah, that's a whole different story.
And it took years. And once again, that was part of your love and passion.
Yeah.
That persistence to get this spot. This symbol here is the highest of all the Adinkra symbols. This is Jinami.
Yeah.
That means accept God. EXCEPT or ACCEPT.
Yes.
You know, both ways. But you see this throughout Ghana, this symbol over and over again, reminding us that there's no thing higher. And to accept that powerful love into your heart.
Exactly.
And so all of this really is this demonstration of love. I mean, this is your demonstration of love, really. And so this is a real physical legacy.
Yes.
But at the same time, I mean, you were just talking about the scholarship. That's another great legacy.
Yes.
You know, and the thing that blows my mind, the thing that like hurts me the most is your communication with other mothers who have lost their sons and daughters, and how you have become the queen mother in many ways. You know, and among other folks who have lost their children.
Yeah, it's awful, but we do have the same loss and no loss is greater than the other loss.
Yeah.
And at some point, we all have to get together collectively and fight for change.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was my biggest issue was, you know, correcting the wrong.
Exactly.
You confront it, you challenge it, and you correct it, just like that. So that was my job, and to have all these other families that were feeling the same pain I was feeling, it was nothing else that I could do but to embrace them and give them love and let them know that, you know, your child didn't die in vain, because we're working consistently to trying to change all these issues that are happening in our community and around the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, this space here also contains all of these native plants. All of these are native to Minnesota and the Minnesota environment here. So they'll thrive here at this particular point without a lot of maintenance. If you all come back in the summer, you'll see this cosmogram that we're going to etch into the concrete surface here. This cosmogram that will have the birth line and the unfortunate death line of Philando.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to stand on the day of his birth,
Yes.
and your shadow will be cast along that line across the center of this.
Absolutely.
Across the center of this circle here. And also the sacredness of the circle we wanted to really include here.
Seitu, did you know that these steps represents the number of bullets that went into Philando's body?
Wow. You know, the other thing about these steps is they point right to the position where his car was
Yes.
when he was stopped.
Yeah,
Gotten that.
everything
All
about
of-
this
yeah.
garden has a spiritual significant meaning, and that's what's so great about it.
Absolutely.
Because of all the meaning that it has, and to have the community be a part of all of this, you know, because they started it.
Yeah.
See, that's the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
thing.
You
The
know, you're
community
right.
started it,
Yeah.
so of course a lot of the implementation just goes a 360. You know, it all comes back to Phil. And I thought it was just the greatest thing because of the uniqueness, and he was unique as
Absolutely.
well. He was a
Absolutely.
unique individual,
Yeah.
very, very spiritual, and he never hurt anybody. So, yeah, and he cared so deeply about others.
Yeah, you know, and you should actually talk about two things. One is like how you named him. I've heard that before, but it's something you should share with folks. And then the name of this space.
Yeah.
You know, what is the name of this space here?
The Philando Castile Peace Garden.
Peace Garden.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You know, you hear this mother's love here. And
Yeah.
it's not spiteful, it's not in anger, but it's all in love.
Yeah.
And how did you name him?
Well, actually, I was told that I could not bear children. And when I did become pregnant, I was in denial. So the baby came and they were asking me what was his name. And I just sat there for a minute and I said, Lord, I don't even know. And then all of a sudden it was Philando. I named him Philando DeVal Castile. And the DeVal means of vow. So he's a part of me. So God gave me that name for him, and I can say for the past 32 years, I have never ever heard of another child named Philando. So that was some uniqueness within itself, and he was such a peaceful person that I couldn't see this space being named anything other than the Philando Castile Peace Garden. I mean, the people came, you know, and that was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, you know, people actually standing up for you and for what happened to him. It was egregious and it was selfish, and there was no accountability. but yet and still, you know, we all rallied and we fought peacefully. So it's one thing to not be a part of something so great and to be a part of something so great. And I just want to thank the community for just being here for me and coming and showing their love for Philando. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
African American history, music, and art cannot be separated from the transatlantic slave trade. In the grand African tradition of honoring our ancestors, I want to pour libation for Philando, who has now joined the great body of all of our ancestors before us. And so we honor him by pouring this liquid into the earth and pouring it here at the base of this serviceberry tree, this native plant to Minnesota, and through this grate that we created to be able to accept libation, and the libation that comes from the sky all the time. And every time, I'm gonna do this pour 3 times, and after each time, I'm going to say his name. And I want you all, as I say Ashe, after I say his name, to think about your ancestors and say the name of your ancestors. So I'm going to pour this and say Ashe. And Ashe is a Yoruban word that means the power to make things happen. And it's almost like a prayer, the way you end a prayer. And so I pour libation for Philando. Ashe. Ashe. I pour libation for Philando. Ashe. Ashe. And I pour libation for Philando and his love for the future. He worked with children, loved children, and so this is to honor his love for the future. For Philando, Ashe.
My name is Rashawn, and I have 2 of the first letters of Mr. Phil's name. P-H.
My name is Ace, and I'm representing the third letter of Mr. Phil's name. I.
My name is Ola, and I represent L and A. My name is Riley, and I have N and D. N and D.
My name is David, and I have the letter O and D.
Look who you left behind. Look what you left behind. Your name on the wind, so much love for the children, and in the hearts of those who will know your legacy left behind. We'll stand for you, we'll kneel for you, we'll laugh for you, and we will weep for you, 'cause we love you. And what